delicacy to the soups. I would certainly recommend, if you like Mediterranean, and I thought it was all vegetarian. We do have a pretty good vegetarian audience out there, and so I know here's one that right away that you can try without any fear. And then, of course, there'll be a lot of other dishes we'll talk about that can feed the vegetarian needs. But let's go ahead now. We had to try the specialty soup that day. It was ham and onion served with a great panini. Let's see if you tell us about that, please.
Well, the panini is done with fontina cheese under the broiler. The soup is sort of a classic onion soup, but it's made with prosciutto in the stock to give it a little bit of body. There's 3 kinds of onions and some garlic in the soup, some rosemary, some thyme, some parsley, a little bit of marsala, and it's a pretty basic soup, but it's pretty tasty, and the fontina really brings it home.
I agree, but definitely your traditional onion. So it's heavy onion, folks. So if you're not an onion fan, you might want to steer clear. But it follows those definite traditional standards of onion soup. But adding the prosciutto and the cheeses to it really brings a new flavor and dimension to it. So, and again, that's a special. So I'm sure he'll be rotating that through. Any other soups that you're really proud of that you want to talk about before we move forward?
Well, last night we did the zuppa de pesce, which had about 5 different kinds of fish in it.
Wow.
Fennel, saffron, a wonderful fish stock, clams, mussels, shrimp.
Oh, that's
really nice soup.
Boy, that's like bouillabaisse to me.
Something like that, yeah.
That really
the trick to that soup is that you got to add the seafood each time to order to give it that fresh flavor and bring out the juices from the mussels and the clams.
Exactly. Well, I'm sorry we weren't there last night, because boy, that is my favorite soup. That is great. Okay, now I know you do a bunch of salads for the folks, but of course, the two that I really like, but the one that to me that's so traditional Italian is have your tomatoes and your cheese. So tell us about this along with your peppers. This is a great, great salad, folks. Beautifully presented.
It's a tomato, mozzarella, and roasted pepper salad. Each of the vegetables and the cheeses are all marinated separately before they're combined together. There's whole basil leaves on there, a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano, and some balsamic vinaigrette to bring it on home.
Really nice, really nice. Now we can talk about one another salad that not for everybody. That's why we didn't film it, but it certainly would be one that I would love, and that's your arugula salad. I love arugula, and I really wanted to film it as well, but I know it's not everybody's first cup of tea. So tell us a little bit about your arugula salad, even though we're not picturing it today.
Well, believe it or not, it's one of our most popular salads.
Really?
And the spiciness of the arugula, it's served with pine nuts and raisins, and the raisins contrast with the spiciness of the arugula as well as the balsamic vinaigrette. There's a little bit of cheese in it. There's some onions and tomatoes, and it's just a very nice salad.
Yeah, well, of course, anything with pine nuts is my favorite, because, I mean, to me, that is the ultimate with regard to ingredient to add into it. So now I know you also do a Caesar salad and also just a garden salad. No, I shouldn't say just a garden salad, but tossed garden salad.
Yes, I do.
Anything particular about your Caesar or your garden you want to throw out there before we move to the
Well,
entree?
the Caesar salad is based purely on tradition.
Traditional. And that's what you can see, folks. I was really surprised because, a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the chefs today are just getting so creative for creative's sake. And they're forgetting some of the roots that, they'll call it something that you're expecting, and it won't be anywhere near that. So this is our dilemma. One, in keeping our chefs, we don't want to bridle them by any means. We want that creativity to keep coming out. But at the same time, we still need to preserve some of our standard bearers, some of our traditional foods. And I think what's surprising, because I was expecting, knowing his background, total creativity and not recognizing any of the food. Not that it's not good, but not recognizing it, and recognizing all new ways and new dimensions. But he's got a lot of standard bearers that I think will really represent the Italian fare, and done with a lot of course, the fresh ingredients and the new twist, which will bring it to home to you. Okay, now we're going to move along. We've pictured 3 of the appetizers. We have a little more time today, so we're going to talk about a few more than that. But let's bring up the first one, and I believe that's going to be. This is really a tough one to choose because it's got a lot of pasta dishes. But we wanted to color the show out specifically. It's not my first choice on it, I'll tell you what it was. But this is a pumpkin ravioli. This is really an unusual flavor and just a great idea of stuffing. Tell us about this dish, please, Chef.
Well, the pasta's made fresh. Almost all our pastas are made fresh in the house.
Right.
And inside of it is roasted pumpkin with onions, garlic, Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of sage. and it's served with a brown butter, and that's made by burning the butter almost until it gets a hazelnut flavor.
Right.
And then at the last minute, you add your sage and your pine nuts, and you have to serve it immediately so it's foaming on top of the pasta. And this is really a rendition of a classic. In Italy, they call it a tortelli di zucca.
The zucca, exactly. But it's so unusual, folks, because we don't have anything like that here. We're so used to stuffing it with other things, or maybe even meats, or just other cheeses. But to have that little punctual taste of the pumpkin hit at you, it's just really an interesting delight. It really is delight. And of course, the color adds to it. To have that nice golden color on the inside when you pop open the ravioli. It's really neat. Now we're going to skip the rest of the pastas and come back to them after we touch on some of the other entrees. And we wanted to make sure we got a good representation of meat and fowl for everyone. So I think the next one is his duckling. Really a neat dish. Tell us about this beautiful presentation here.
This is a roasted breast of duckling, and it's been marinated with rosemary, thyme, garlic, onions, and a little bit of port wine. And it is served with creamy polenta. The polenta is done with ricotta cheese and mascarpone cheese.
I'm interrupting for a second because, as I've told you folks, what's really good about finally we're doing retro in the last 15 years. We've started get all the dishes that we used to do was considered blasé are now coming back. This polenta is always considered peasant food in Italy, but it's the most homecoming. This is your security meal, and the way he's dressed it up here, without really, I mean, we're doing a lot of fancy things with polenta now, putting on portobello mushrooms or salmon. All he's done is introduced the cheeses to it and really knocked it up, but still so delicate. And again, I remember the same puree in the soup. It's that same pure salt. Most of the polentas now are formed and a little hard. This is so delicate, it's really unbelievable. Go ahead and finish that dish. I don't want to cheat you of that.
Sure. It's served with grilled heart of romaine and a basil fig jus.
Right.
And that's made the classic way, roasting the duck bones.
Yeah, I'm not a big fig person, but definitely the addition of the flavor to the jus is really nice. This was really a classically done dish, folks, and couldn't beat the duck. I just think it's one that for those who like duck, and duck again is a black and white situation, but more and more of the restaurants are starting to bring it back and do a good job with it. I think you'll find it so delicately balanced with the polenta. It's really neat today. Okay, now also we want to talk about a wonderful pork loin dish, ortigliata. It was so good. Tell us about this. This is really, I told him it almost looked like a beef Wellington, the presentation. It's just so beautifully done. Certainly, this is something really pretty for you folks. Tell us about it, what's inside and what we got going.
Well, it's a boneless pork loin that's been pounded out and layered with herbs, prosciutto, fontina, and roasted peppers. It's then rolled up into a little roulade and breaded, flour, egg wash, and breadcrumbs. And then it's cooked up and sliced, and that's served with Sicilian mashed potatoes and grilled vegetables. And what makes the potatoes special?
Yeah, please, because that was delicious.
No butter, no cream, extra virgin olive oil, shallots, garlic, parsley, and it's fork mashed to order. So it's very delicate, and you can taste the flavor of the olive oil in there.
Exactly. I was anxious because I was concerned that the potatoes were going to be overbearing. You know, when you talk about mashed potatoes, that's a heavy cream and all. They were so pure. I mean, it was just a delight because it really was a delicate balance with that wonderful, wonderful dish. So, folks, let's talk about a few more of the other entrees because we do have lots of time here today, which is really good for our sake, for the audience, so they can actually hear a little bit more. I know you've got to do a lot with salmon. Tell us, and also a couple other fish dishes. Let's talk about your trout and your salmon dish, and then I want to talk about that mixed seafood dish that you do.
Well, the trouts are rainbow trout from the river.
Good.
It's served almost whole. I do take
real
that
trout
off.
now. You know, a lot of our chefs passing some other fish, but you
well, you can see the whole fish, so you know it's a trout.
Good.
And
good.
inside of it is rosemary, lemon, and garlic. And then it's wrapped up with pancetta, which is an Italian air-cured bacon. It's grilled and served over grilled polenta with wild mushrooms and a lemon butter sauce.
Wow, that really sounds like I say, trout is, New Orleans always has loved trout. Besides catfish, trout is really the been the thing. But and it was standing on every restaurant when I was growing up, and then disappeared, and then it's come back, but many times not really trout, as I was saying. So that's why I didn't mean
this is the real river trout.
Good, excellent. Now, what about your salmon dish? Because salmon, of course, is so popular days. I know you had a great appetizer. What are you doing in it in entree flavor?
Serving it with saffron risotto and puttanesca sauce.
Okay.
Puttanesca sauce has a...
Why don't you tell them, yes, not everyone knows what puttanesca is, so why don't you give them a little definition of what that is for them?
It has capers, olives, blackened Sicilian olives, chopped tomatoes, garlic, anchovies, and it's all fresh ingredients, and they're cooked very quickly to maintain the integrity of the flavors. And the saffron risotto is made with fish stock, garlic, tomatoes, and it's a very simple dish, highlighting the flavor of the salmon. And some of these salty flavors bring out the fish flavor a little more.
Right. Okay, before we get to the next effects, don't hesitate to give us a call. I know I've been remiss, but if you'd like to ask any question to the chef today, please don't hesitate to call. I think the number's up on the screen. Give us a holler. We'd be glad to share any more information about the restaurant and about the food we can. But meanwhile, I got to talk about this mixed seafood. I wanted to present it, picture it, and we debated whether it was a little bit too much for the folks. Wanted to get stuff they recognize. But go ahead and tell us about this great mixed selection of seafoods that you do. I think it sounds like a great dish.
On the Frito Misto?
Yes.
We do baby octopus, oysters, shrimp, calamari, and they're all lightly seasoned and battered and fried. Okay. And they're served with a saffron aioli, which is a garlic mayonnaise.
Right.
And it's a pretty simple dish, but it highlights the flavors of the sea. And it's served with fried eggplant, and you get a lot of it. It's real nice.
Well, I think, again, not as an appetite, but granted, if you have diners like I bring, so everybody loves to try things, so here's a perfect example. But I just thought it was really rung home true to our traditions of fried seafoods, even though you're expanding it to some of the more exotic ones, the calamari and all that, even though everyone eats that nowadays as an appetizer. I just think this sounds like just truly a remarkable dish that I think anyone who likes seafood and like them fried, which we all do here locally, would certainly want to order. Now let's get back to the pasta, because folks, he's got a really long list of pasta dishes. As I mentioned, we wanted to present for you the ravioli with the pumpkin because it was just so exciting, of a contrast and a new regime there. But the dish that is my favorite pasta dish, and I really regretted not bringing it on and trying it, was your gnocchi. Can you please tell us how you prepare gnocchi? Because again, it's another one of these dishes that are slowly coming back to the community, but it couldn't come back quick enough for me.
Well, gnocchis are kind of difficult to make
right.
Because you have to be very delicate. If you work it too much, they get to be kind of chewy. And it's made by roasting potatoes and then peeling them and adding eggs and cheese and flour to it and working it into a dough. Then it's rolled out and cut into little bite-sized pieces, right. And it's poached off. And then I fry it in a pan after that and add garlic and shallots and rosemary and thyme. And then I add a little marsala, some wild mushrooms, a little bit of cream, and some Parmesan cheese.
Wow.
And a little chopped tomato. And it's very popular.
Excellent. It does sound popular. It really sounds good. Like I say, I was afraid that it wouldn't make the presentation because on the plate I just thought that the colors would blend in together, and that was my mistake because it really does sound great. But let's talk about some of the others, because you've got a whole bunch of stuff. You've got sauteed calamari, and of course, again, we were just talking about it in the mixed thing, but you do that with a pasta dish, and of course, that's always a standard. Tell us a little bit about what you do with your calamari.
Well, that's one of my favorites, and it's served sort of in a broth with spicy pepper and lemon. And it's a very simple dish. It's parsley, white wine, lemon, garlic, tomatoes, and calamari, and that's served with spaghetti. And it's the kind of dish you can stick your bread in and sop up the juice. It's very tasty.
And that is a true measure of New Orleans restaurant and New Orleans diners. Well, Matt, someone's taking us on the thing and giving us a call. So let's see. This is a restaurant review. We're talking to Matt YOHALLA of Il Piatto. Who's on the phone, please?
Hi, my name is Chris.
Okay, welcome to the show. What can we answer for you?
I want to know where y'all are located, and are y'all wheelchair accessible?
Okay.
For disabled people?
All right. That's a very good question. You know, when we talked at the beginning, I apologize because we usually try and cover that. We covered the hours, but really didn't give you location. He's on Maple Street, which is uptown between Broadway and Carrollton. I think the address is 7708.
That's right.
As we mentioned, it was a little restaurant called Nautica before. It's only maybe 5-10 blocks from Carrollton. It's closer to Carrollton than Broadway, I believe, huh?
Yeah.
It's on the riverside. Now, of course, Maple Street, if you've been on there, is now Restaurant Row. I mean, just like Magazine, there's tons of little restaurants, which is great for that community, for the university and that side of the community. But it is on the riverside, a beautiful little house. Has what's really unique about this restaurant, and something we should brag about, it has its own parking. All, New Orleans restaurants, especially uptown, depend on the street. Right between the actual restaurant itself and the neighboring building is a driveway leading to a back parking lot. So it's very, very good. Now, you asked about disabled. There is a disabled ramp. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
ADA requirements, so certainly you can get in. And another thing we didn't mention, which is going to be great, maybe not so much right now, but he has 2-tiered of outside dining. He has a beautiful porch that leads into the shotgun home with tables, and then a little lower down to ground level, got some more tables. So when the weather warms up a little bit, not right now, be a great place to dine because it's got a beautiful view looking over Maple Street, looking at some of the other homes and the business and all the people. And any other questions we have we answered them for you?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and give them a try.
All right.
We appreciate you calling. Stay tuned. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Well, good, man, and I'm so glad the lady called because those are things that we take for granted and don't bring out some of the time. So there we were able to make sure, hopefully, she knows where to go and emphasize about your parking because, as I mentioned, that is a premium uptown. Trying to fight on the streets. So having your own parking lot is really a neat deal. Okay, let's go back to the pasta dishes. We want to talk about your linguine. Everybody loves linguine, and you do it with a little seafood too. So tell us what that is, please.
I do it with clams, mussels, shrimp, and calamari. We make a wonderful clam stock and add to that garlic and onions and tomatoes and oregano and parsley and white wine. And you can get that either with that white sauce, finished with a little butter, or with a marinara sauce. And it's just abundant with seafood.
Okay. And again, for the vegetarian and for the truly traditionalist, you do a spaghetti marinara. You want to tell us anything about his marinara sauce that would make yours better?
Mine's right out of the book. It's very basic, saute the vegetables, add a little bit of wine, add my tomatoes to it, blend it up a little bit. It's a basic sauce, but people have basic tastes, and you got to have a little something for everyone.
Right.
And it is one of the foundations of Italian cooking is to have a good marinara. And
exactly.
The trick is having ripe tomatoes and fresh ingredients.
That is the key, is the fresh ingredients. But I was glad to see, because a lot of these dish people say, well, he's really going a little bit off and stuff, but here's your basics. So for your true traditionalists, you can't get any better than a good marinara sauce. But here's another one I really sounds interesting, is your jumbo scampi risotto. Boy, risotto is one of my favorites, and getting a little bit more popularity the last 5 to 10 years. Tell us what you do on a scampi risotto, please.
Well, I've been very pleasantly surprised with the warm reception to the risottos. I've been able to sell a lot of risottos, and I enjoy making it. And the trick with the risottos is you have to keep stirring and stirring and stirring to bring out the starches, to give it that sort of a porridgey consistency, yet without overcooking the rice. And I use nice large shrimp, fresh lemons, white wine, tomatoes, and parsley. And I make a nice little sauce, and it goes on top of the risotto. But really what makes the dish special is the preparation of the risotto.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But like I say, it's got to be prepared well. But what about sweet peppers? I didn't hear. It says the sweet peppers here. Do you can put peppers in it?
Yeah, they're in there. Roasted peppers, diced up. They're both in the risotto and in the saute of shrimp. They're on both sides.
Excellent. Now here's one. Again, we talked about another. We had duck before. We talked about how great that duck picture for you. But here's another duck. I didn't see that until now. It's and in the pasta thing, a braised duck. Tell us about the pappardelle with braised duck.
Well, pappardelle is a wide.
Everybody knows what that is.
It's a wide noodle, about 4 times the size of fettuccine. Yeah, about that thick.
I love it because it's like mini lasagna to me.
Yeah, basically, and of course we make that in the house.
Great.
And I serve the breast on the other dish, but the leg and the thigh I cook off with red wine and onions.
Ooh.
And I cook that for about 2 hours until the meat's about to fall off the
off?
bone.
Ooh.
And then we pick the meat off of the bone and saute it with a little bit of the sauce that's made from cooking that. And to that we add sun-dried tomatoes, and we finish that with a little mascarpone cheese, and that's served as sort of a little stew with pappardelle noodles.
Wow. That sounds, especially right now with this cold weather, folks, that sounds real hearty and stick to your ribs. So that would be something, even on duck's not for everyone, but I think that meatiness, the heaviness of that sauce, I think would really be a wonderful tribute to our what's left of our cold week. Well, folks, we've been talking to Matt YOHALLA, who has brought his culinary skills to our city by opening a new restaurant called Il Piatto. As we mentioned when we had a caller, it's at 7708 Maple Street in the heart of University District. That's between Broadway and Carrollton. He's on the riverside, a lovely little basically almost a single shotgun with a porch. But as we mentioned, what's really neat about it is that he has 2 levels of outside dining. When you go through the little fence, there's a ground level dining area, a deck at the next level, and then the actual merge into the porch. And on the porch are some tables. So you couldn't get a prettier view, and a great, when our weather improves, which will only be a week away, great place to try it. But of course, there's 3 dining rooms, a large and 2 small, 1 intimate, really done beautifully well. Got a great wait staff, very hospitable, his maitre d', and really coming along. They've only been open since mid-December, but got a really good following already. We do want to remember that they are dark on Sunday, so can't get there Sunday, but full lunch Monday through Friday and full dinner Monday through Saturday night. So it's something you really want to try. Now, what we want to do, and the next thing is go back, as we mentioned, we were privileged to have the illustrious Phil Malone's son and notorious Johnny Angel here for our last Christmas show again, and we put them together in a little, not a combative, but in a great dueling mode with regard to putting things together. And we had such rave reviews about him. We couldn't get him back in the studio, but we said, well, if you don't mind, we'll rehash Christmas songs. Again, they've been done in, as you see, tweaking in kind of unusual ways. When we had a salsa white Christmas, you'll see what we're going to do. And what we're going to do now for you is let you hear another song by the great Phil Malone's son and Johnny Angel. Can you take it away?
Song, but make it New Orleans style. Why? Crawfish burling on a propane fire. Sand crabs dipping at your toe. Pete's half-ass stumbling with his clarinet. Jerry Jumonville wearing those funky matching clothes. Oh, as he blows. Yeah, some oysters and some big shoe soles will help to make the season right. Tiny tots with their skin all aglow sleep without the bedbug bite, for they know that summer is here to stay. Who needs lots of fancy toys? Well, we just run out there on a neutral ground and play. And there ain't no mama's child who cares to know why nectar snowballs makes one look like Boudreaux. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to yaks from Kenner to Araby, that although it's been said many times in many ways, living sweet here in New Orleans. every mama's child is sure to spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92, that although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you.
Very, very nice. How melodic. That's the well-talented Phil Malone. And it's a New Orleans Christmas. I guess you recognize that, especially with all those New Orleans terms in the front. We really appreciate Phil and Johnny being in our show and letting us show them again to you all, because I think it's, even though we're getting over the holidays, it's good to hear those old standards, and especially by some of our finest talent. Okay, we're back here at Restaurant Revue. As we mentioned just before we went on the break, we have a great new restaurant. It's only been open since December, called Il Piatto. It means the plate literally, but we're really talking about the course of the meal, the entree, the actual course that you're dining in. But used anyway. The important thing, it's a great name, and we have a wonderful new chef, new to our area at least, Matt YOHALLA. We appreciate him coming in today and telling us all the great things of his background and what he's doing here in the city. Okay, Matt, before we go any further, let's go ahead and move forward, so we'll finish the menu for the folks. Again, don't hesitate to call. The numbers will be up there. We appreciate the callers all the time. We want to go ahead and go over the desserts, because what a way to finish these great meals that we've talked about. And obviously, the first one, all of them are true traditional Italian favorites, but the first one is one that we don't see much at all, and that was a chocolate cassata cake. Cassata is the cake, and this one is really done up great. I had never seen it brought up to this level, so that picture barely does it justice, folks, because there's so much stuff going on there. But tell us about it, please.
Well, it's a chocolate sponge cake, and what makes this cake special is the cannoli cream. Cannoli cream, right. And the cannoli cream is made with sugar and ricotta.
Ricotta, right.
And it's a fairly simple cake. You know, it's made by layering the different layers of the sponge. But it's really tasty. Cannolis are one of my favorite things. And
you and me both.
This is just a way to bring in that flavor.
Well, again, cassata, most cassata cakes we've seen here are strictly the yellow, so that's neat to do the chocolate and to give it, and then also put a little chocolate sauce on top, right?
Yes, I do.
But that definitely, there's nothing better than that canola cream on top. The risotto cream is so good, and then having some dollops of chocolate on the top. So this is really a different one you're not going to find anywhere else, folks. You might find a few cassata slices, but not done in this regard. So heartily recommend this dessert. But again, you've got to have a standard, and of course, all of our standards measure the tiramisu. Tell us about your version of it while we look on the screen, folks.
Well, we make our own lady fingers, and they're soaked in espresso, and
I mean soaked.
Oh yeah, they're soaked. Tiramisu means pick me up, so you got to make sure they get enough coffee.
Exactly. I think people have forgotten what it means, because there's very little soaking in a lot of tiramisus today, but yours was laden.
Yeah, you got to soak it, and we use the best mascarpone. And the trick to making it is letting it set overnight. You can't serve it that day. It really has to soak everything up.
Right. Really good, folks. I'm telling you, one of the best I've had locally in a long, long time. Again, tiramisu today, people are going all over. You I mean, the basic is to have the lady fingers, and many of them, you never see it. You don't see any lady fingers at all anymore. But truly, the idea of being soaking, almost soaking wet to call it, this is dripping delicious. It's so good. It's really heavy from the sauce, but not heavy in dessert. Certainly light. And of course, finally, to finish our New Orleans favorite, and always stand by, you do a bread pudding. So tell us about your bread pudding.
Well, here in New Orleans, you have to have.
You got to have it. Got to have it.
I try not to use too much bread. I like the more custardy flavor too.
Good, yeah, because bread pudding is not my favorite because of the level of bread. So I didn't get a chance to try this the other night, but go ahead and tell us about yours.
Well, nice amount of pudding in it. And I like to have a fruit and a nut. I vary it. Pistachios, almonds, walnuts. I use currants and raisins and figs and apricots, all the different times. So it's a basic bread pudding, but it's cooked nice and slow so that it gets that puddingy effect to it. And pretty tasty.
Pretty tasty. Well, those are his desserts, folks. He doesn't have a big selection of them, but he's got 3 dynamite ways to finish. Now, let's talk about, obviously, what's so important today are your beverages, and he's got a great list. But let's first start with the wine. And again, we like to ask our chefs, for even if they're not as knowledgeable as maybe their maitre d', but still, what is their philosophy for wine in the restaurant? Obviously, most of them have wine, but let's see, what do you think you want to represent to supplement your diner with wine, please?
Well, there's several aspects to the wine list. One is that the wine has to go with the food.
Correct.
In Italy, wine is pretty much considered a food.
A food.
And so the flavor isn't complete without both things being there. Then the other aspect is the price, and because I'm a moderately priced restaurant, I try and keep the wine list very fair and reasonable.
Great.
Most of the wines featured are from Italy, although there's California is represented there.
Good.
And I feel that the Italian wines go best with the Italian food. They're meant to be. What grows together goes together. These things are supposed to be consumed together.
Exactly. You couldn't have said it any better, and I think that's the key, folks. I mean, I know we have our standards and our palate preferences, but at the same time, if you're going to go with an ethnic cuisine, what better than go all the way and have the traditional wines that are served with that particular food? Even if we're partial to something else, I think it's really the true way to go. As he mentioned, it is quite reasonable, both the food and the wine. And the important thing here, folks, as we say on this thread, is that wine has become so important today that to many of the places, wine is the leader. Our show, wine is not the leader. It's a supplement, the accompaniment to the dinner. The food's not there, we ain't having them on, because they got to have the food. I think, there's too many places today where you can go get drunk and have the food and think the food was good, and it's not. So we've got a great slate. Anything else about the restaurant you want to tell us? Any special events or anything else about the restaurant that we can alert our folks to?
Well, actually, the biggest special event that we have is that we don't do special events. On New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve, on Valentine's Day, on these big festive holidays where people jack up their prices and there's huge waits, we keep the same menu.
There you go.
We do plenty of specials, but well within the price point that we're representing here.
Right.
And it's a neighborhood restaurant, the kind of place you could go anytime for any reason, either for a holiday or just to go get something to eat. Right. And that's the special event, is that it's just a regular place.
But I think it's perfect for its location, because even though we mentioned Maple Street is getting to be a little restaurant row, again, they're getting to be certain niches. Each one is their own little special niche. And none of them are truly neighborhood. There's one or two that's still what I consider a neighborhood restaurant. And I think you reinventing that to that, because originally that's all it was. Now we're getting some of the, not chains, but chain-like type stores in there. And even though they might be good in their own quality, they're focusing on a certain element, a certain level, and it's not rounded enough to please to all levels. Here, there's a lot of neighbors there that want to go to a restaurant and don't want to have to travel all over. And here you give them a great variety, one of the best cuisines around, always. French and Italian are your basic standards, no matter what else you like. Those you got to be your basic standards. So I think you've done a great job, Iran. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And, of course, anything we can do to help out. I do want to, before we go, though, I do want to mention, because we really didn't do it justice, and you threw it in at the last minute, about your specials. Let's talk a little about some of the dishes. I mean, I know you have soups every day, but some of the, I was impressed that there was at least 5 or 6 specials up on the board, besides the extent of your menu right now. Can you maybe give us a few ideas of the ones that you feel that you're going to standardly put out there that are really being received?
If it becomes too standard, I put it onto the menu.
Onto the menu.
You know, the blackboard, we have several blackboards in the restaurant, and the blackboards are where I get to play.
Right.
And I do things that are fun and exciting, and things that I can use, products that I get very fresh. I did some roast breast of veal ossobuco yesterday.
Wow.
I got in some whole striped bass today, and I did them with a ham, clam, and sausage risotto. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we make our own sausage. I do some things with baby octopus.
Wow.
I just try and keep it interesting and exciting. Yeah. I always have a pasta or a risotto special. I have a meat and a fish, and it's pretty much what I can get the freshest and the best, and I get to play with these products.
Great. Well, folks, there you go. And as we said before, his emphasis is on the traditional, but he has that great blackboard special where he can get wild and creative. So he's got the best of both worlds, which is so important to the restaurant, because after a while, after the restaurant's been open for a while, if the menu, even if you change it, if it gets so ordinary to the chef, he loses that spirit, and that's when he either moves on or closes up or whatever. So here we've got Matt entertaining, putting out the good food, changing it with some recommendations and on such a periodic basis, but at the same time still being able to go wild on a couple of dishes every night to really entice that diner who's maybe tried most of the menu and want to have something different, or just for the really adventurous, some diner. We want to go ahead and tell you that this has been Restaurant Review. We've had Executive Chef Matt YOHALLA, Mobile Piatto, a great new restaurant in Maple. We want you to try it. We want to tell you next week we're going to be bringing another new restaurant to you. In fact, it's going to be Cecil Palmer's third Jamaican restaurant here in the city. He's very well known, and he's opened up a new one, and we'll be anxious to bring that to you. So don't forget to check us out every Saturday, 3 to 4. Also during the weekdays on Wednesdays, early in the morning, afternoon, and then again late Friday night. If you have any other comments, give us a call or send us an email or a letter. We'd be glad. Thank you for calling and watching and being with us every week. And now we're going to go ahead and let out our two favorite artists to take us out, and that is the wonderful Phil MELANCON and the great Johnny Angel doing their final songs. We'll see you here next week, 3 p.m. Take care.
From heaven, don't you know each counting things comes from heaven? You'll find that good old fortune falling on the south. Be sure your umbrella up, upside down. Save it all for a package of sunshine and macaroni. If you like the things you love, you gotta reach for money. Next time you hear the thunder run under a tree, be raining pennies from heaven, you and me. Take one, Bill. Macaroni, yeah. Pennies from heaven. Pennies from heaven. Don't you know each cloud contains pennies from heaven? Pennies from heaven. You'll find that good old fortune falling over town. Be sure your umbrella's up, upside down. Save it all for a package of sunshine and macaroni. If you like the things you love, you gotta reach for money. Oh, yeah. Next time you hear the thunder run under a tree, raining things from heaven, you and me. Oh yeah, it's raining things from heaven, you and me. Okay, well, let's do a few more over there, Phil. For everyone to have the old chestnut.
How about one of these cats here for these guys, you know? Try this a G, fellas. Well, you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen. There was Comet and there was Cupid and there was, of course, Little Nixon. But do you recall the most famous reindeer of them all? Well, he was Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, with a little shiny nose. And if you ever saw it, you would even say that it glowed. All of the other reindeer used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer game. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And then all of the reindeer laughed, and they shouted out with glee, hey, Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, you go down in history. Little shiny nose, man, if you ever saw it, you would even say that it glowed.
He was a drinker.
All of the other reindeers, Johnny, would laugh and call him Jermaine. They never let little Rudolph join in any reindeer game. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, he said, Rudolph, you're so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And then all of the reindeer loved him, and they shouted out with glee, Rudolph, you red-nosed reindeer, you go down in history. You go down in history.
Again, I want to thank, what a talent.
Yeah.
Johnny Angel, Philip Melanson, the great band. We thank you all. Happy holidays to everyone, and we'll see y'all next year. Thanks
Thank you
again.
very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Woo. Good deal. All right.
Take all of me, I know. Can't you see I'm no good without you? Well, take my lips, never use them. Yes, take these off, want to lose it. Your goodbye, them weird eyes that cry. Well, how could I go on deep without you? Yes, you took the part that used to be my heart. So why not take all of me? Danger. sugar without you. Yeah, take my lips. Never use them. Yes, take these off. I want to lose them. Well, your goodbye left with eyes that cry. Well, how could I go on, dear, without you? Yes, you took the part. You still be my heart. So why not?